Good morning. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob reminded all Malaysians not to forget members of Keluarga Malaysia who have been affected by the floods during their festive celebrations. He said this in his Christmas Day greetings to Malaysians celebrating the joyous occasion. Through a posting on his Facebook page, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said that although Christmas is a time of joy, families affected by the recent disaster should always be kept in mind. The Prime Minister also reminded Malaysians to always be vigilant and adhere to the standard operating procedures SOPs in order to continue to curb the spread of COVID-19. Christmas Day on Saturday was celebrated on a muted note as Malaysians continued their recovery from devastating floods which struck several states recently. With COVID-19 SOPs also still in place, many of those met said that the celebrations this year were held on a much smaller scale. In Kuching City, coverage by our news crew found that tourist spots remained a popular choice among Malaysians who wish to celebrate the joyous occasion with loved ones. For Mary Aweng Jalong from Miri, the Christmas atmosphere was less lively this year as her siblings who were in Sabah and Singapore were unable to return. As such, they decided to celebrate Christmas Day in Kuching City.
Christmas tahun tu, kami orang pun aktiviti adalah mbak anak-anak lah, mbak anak-anak jalan-jalan sebab kami orang dari Miri nak lagi pun sidaknya belum pernah datang ke Kuching, so kami ambil peluang Christmas this year untuk mbak sidaknya jalan-jalan untuk lawat semua tempat-tempat bersejarah di Kuching tu lah.
For Jack Payan from Serian, the festive holidays provide an opportunity for him to bring his family to visit interesting places in Kuching.
Christmas tahun tu sederhana aja, sambutannya sederhana aja lah. Seperti biasa, sembahyang seperti biasa saja. Aktiviti adalah kunjung-menyung pada rumah saudara mara.
He added that as the celebrations this time around are a bit different than in previous years, revelers would always need to be vigilant and adhere to the SOPs set by the government. Meanwhile, Jacqueliana Jarum arrived in Kuching with her two cousins after taking bus ride from Cebu in order to enjoy a 3-day holiday there. Jacqueliana said the mood has been quite somber and her family has had a smaller scale celebration as compared to previous years.
Kalau selalu macam tahun-tahun lalu asal Christmasnya memang kami balik-balik yang macam family dari jauh-jauh kan, yang semua memang kami penuh satu rumah. Tapi nak tahun tu semuanya memang balik sangatlah. Macam tidak berapa family pun tak berapa mau galak suruh mereka balik, macam kita orang buat macam Christmas guna apa tu? Macam kita guna video saja, video call macam tu saja.
The flood disaster across the country has so far claimed 46 lives on Saturday, while 5 men are still unaccounted for in Pahang. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani said a total of 25 deaths were recorded in Selangor, involving 17 men and 8 women, while in Pahang, 12 men, 4 women and 2 boys lost their lives.
Selangor mencatatkan jumlah 25 kematian, di Pahang 18, di Kelantan 3. Ini menjadikan jumlahnya keseluruhan adalah 46 dan di sini juga kita dapati 5 mangsa masih lagi hilang dan kita berharap ia akan dapat ditemui secepat mungkin.
At a press conference on Ops Banjir in Taman Sri Muda Section 25 Shah Alam on Saturday, he said there are still 54,532 flood victims at 334 relief centres in Kelantan, Kuala Lumpur, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Perak and Selangor, adding that Pahang recorded the highest number of flood victims with over 29,000, followed by Selangor with over 23,000. 68 stretches of roads in Kelantan, Pahang, Negeri Sembilan and Selangor were also still closed due to the floods. According to Tan Sri Akril Sani, 15 criminal cases have been reported nationwide, involving 10 reports of breaking and entering in homes and businesses, as well as 5 car thefts between December 17th and 24th, adding that 377 police personnel had been mobilized to prevent more of these incidents from happening in areas affected by the floods. In the meantime, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah urged the government to conduct a post-mortem on the drainage system in the country. His Majesty said this was needed in order to address problems of flash floods in urban areas. Speaking to the media after visiting the Taman Sri Muda Mosque and surrounding areas that were affected by the floods, the King suggested that the government conduct a post-mortem to minimize such incidents in the future. His Majesty also called for financial institutions to play their role in helping to reduce the burden of flood victims by providing some flexibility to allow them time to recover their losses. Insurance companies, for example, he said, can help reduce the burden of flood victims by covering part of the cost of damage of the vehicles involved. Al-Sultan Abdullah, who met the residents of Taman Sri Muda and handed over contributions to them, also expressed his admiration for their perseverance in facing the situation. Accompanying His Majesty were the Raja Muda of Selangor, Tengku Amir Shah Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah, Selangor Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Amiruddin Syari, Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, and Malaysian Armed Forces Chief General Tan Sri Effendi Buang.
Okay, take care everybody. Yeah.
Moving on, Senior Education Minister Dr. Radzi Jidin wants repair works at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan, SMK Taman Sri Muda and 8 other schools in the surrounding areas which were affected by the recent flooding to be carried out immediately. Dr. Radzi said he was at SMK Taman Sri Muda on Friday and found the classrooms, workshops, the science and computer labs were badly damaged. In a posting on his official Facebook page, he said a total of 34 school teachers were also affected by the floods. Dr. Radzi was accompanied by the Education Ministry, Deputy Secretary General Planning and Development, Nur Azman Abdul Rahman, during the visit. He said the ministry was committed in ensuring that all schools affected in the recent major floods get immediate attention to ensure a safer and more comfortable learning environment. Malaysia's economic performance is expected to recover next year, driven by the opening of economic and social sectors. Former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, however, expects the rate of economic growth proposed by the government would be difficult to achieve.
Because it's not just the start, but what happens on the ground. What I find is that many ideas were brought up, policies were enunciated, but on the ground, they couldn't interpret and implement the policies that is determined by the government. So I would say that there would be improvement, but it will not be as good as predicted.
Speaking during an interview on TV3's flagship business program Money Matters on Saturday, Tun Dr. Mahathir said the 3-time change of government as well as government policies in a short span of time has also affected the efforts of civil servants, and now economic growth of up to 8% a year can only be achieved with a stable government and stable policies. He added that through this, local companies will also be able to achieve higher profits as well as to provide additional income to the government.
What I find is that many ideas were brought up, policies were enunciated, but on the ground, they couldn't interpret and implement the policies that is determined by the government. So I would say that there would be improvement, but it will not be as good as predicted. Usually the prediction is very good, but there are many other factors that affect performance which may not contribute as much as was expected. And therefore the projection would be optimistic. People want to have quick money, but what I'm suggesting is a more permanent change that will help us to reduce the disparity in terms of wealth between the different races. If we grow the economy, our economy is not fully grown because there are so many opportunities which have not been exploited. Under a good government, a stable government, the economy can grow very fast, much faster. We may even attain 8% growth every year. That will give the government, the business people will have made good profits and government revenue will increase.
Saudi Arabia now on list of high-risk countries as 49 more Omicron cases detected. Details when we return. Nightline continues. A total of 49 new cases of the Omicron variant have been detected in Malaysia, bringing the cumulative number of such cases in the country to 62, with all but one being imported infections. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin cautioned that there is a high possibility that Omicron is already in the community based on the one suspected local transmission case. In a press conference on Saturday, Khairi said the Institute for Medical Research, IMR, conducted a PCR genotyping assay test on 145 COVID-19 positive samples among travellers from December 15th to 21st, with 60 of them identified as presumptive Omicron variant. On Friday, 45 of the 60 presumptive samples were confirmed to be of the Omicron variant. Meanwhile, the Institute of Health and Community Medicine, University Malaysia Sarawak, had detected 4 cases of the Omicron variant. On the local infection of the Omicron variant, Khairi said it involves a 38-year-old male Chinese national who is fully immunised and has been working in the country for the past 3 years.
Kes ini merupakan seorang lelaki warga negara China berusia 38 tahun yang bekerja di sebuah syarikat kejuruteraan di Sarawak selama 3 tahun. Kes telah menjalani ujian COVID-19 pada 18 Disember kerana mengalami demam dan batuk sejak 13 Disember. Keputusan sampel didapati positif COVID dan kes telah dimasukkan ke PKRC di bawah Hospital Umum Sarawak pada 20 Disember.
This particular patient reportedly has no history of travelling abroad in the past 3 years, with an investigation into the cause of infection underway by the Kuching Division Health Office. 2 contacts have been identified, namely a driver and a social contact, with both of them undergoing quarantine for 14 days, whereby the results of their first sample test found them negative for COVID-19. The Health Minister said due to the risk of the spread of the Omicron variant worldwide and detection of the cases in Malaysia, the Health Ministry, together with other agencies, had taken action to strengthen control at international gateways and screening of high-risk groups. Khairi added that effective December 22nd, the Sarawak government requires all travellers from abroad to be quarantined at the first point of entry into the country before being allowed to enter the state, and will be released from quarantine only if their RT-PCR test is negative. At the same time, with the excitement of the Christmas and coming New Year celebrations, Khairi reminded the public to adhere to standard health protocols and conduct COVID-19 self-tests with antigen rapid test kits before visiting loved ones. The Health Minister also announced that beginning next week, individuals undergoing the 7-day mandatory quarantine after returning from the Umrah pilgrimage must wear a digital tracking device. Khairi explained that the decision was made after 30 out of the 49 new cases involving the Omicron variant detected in Malaysia over the past few days were imported from Saudi Arabia. Khairi said authorities discovered that a large number of those found to be infected with the Omicron variant did not comply with the directive to isolate themselves from their family members, and some were even found to be entertaining guests.
This is serious, ya. This is serious. Kita bagi kemudahan home quarantine. Sebab apabila kita dah buat keputusan, kita nak mengurus dan kita nak hidup dengan COVID-19, kita nak memudahkan. Kita tak ada lagi nak hantar ke quarantine station, ke hotel dan sebagainya yang menelan perbelanjaan yang banyak. Kita benarkan home quarantine, tetapi kena patuhlah kepada home quarantine. Maksudnya asingkan diri.
Khairi said failure to adhere to the quarantine directive can potentially result in increased transmission of Omicron variant infections in the country. In light of the new development, Khairi said Malaysia will include Saudi Arabia in the list of high-risk countries, along with 9 other countries: the United Kingdom, the United States, Denmark, Australia, France, Norway, Canada, India and Nigeria, all of which require returnees to wear the tracking devices. Meanwhile, following the recent spread of the Omicron variant in the country, Khairi said the government will announce a new interval period for the COVID-19 booster shot next week. He said it would involve narrowing the interval between the second dose and the booster dose.
Pada minggu depan, saya akan umumkan interval yang baru yang akan kita pendekkan daripada dos kedua dan dos ketiga. Dan ini akan melayakkan sebahagian besar daripada penduduk Malaysia yang telah menerima dos pertama dan dos kedua untuk dapat dos ketiga.
With the latest development, Khairi advised individuals wishing to travel abroad to get the booster jab, especially if they have received 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. The move to shorten the interval is similar to measures taken by other countries, such as Germany and Australia, which are recommending shorter booster wait times in an attempt to stop the spread of new variants. Currently, those who receive the Sinovac vaccine get their booster shots 90 days after being fully vaccinated, while Pfizer and AstraZeneca recipients are recommended to get a third dose 180 days after their second.
Bold measures, tough reforms. What areas can be further improved for Malaysia's economic recovery in the coming year? What are the key challenges for the nation's growth? Will Malaysia's economic recovery gain momentum in 2022? Malaysia's economic outlook with the World Bank on Money Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
The suspension of bus and air tickets between Malaysia and Singapore under the Vaccinated Travel Lane (VTL) is only temporary. In confirming the matter, Johor Menteri Besar Datuk Hasni Mohamad said both the Malaysian and Singapore governments have given their commitment to not closing the VTL initiatives, and added that the border between both countries will remain open.
Kedua-dua kerajaan lebih berhati-hati memandangkan peningkatan kes varian baru ni, Omicron ini di negara Singapura contoh. Jadi kita bersetuju supaya pembukaan VTL darat ini yang menggunakan kenderaan awam ini dipastikan supaya dapat kita kawal.
Dato' Hasni added that the VTL will be resumed once the number of imported COVID-19 cases in Singapore declines. On Wednesday, Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin announced that the sale of ground tickets and VTL flights was temporarily suspended until January 20th next year and would reopen after a risk assessment was made based on the current COVID-19 situation in both countries. Thousands of flights cancelled worldwide as Omicron spread affects Christmas plans. This and more when we return. to the foreign front, billions of Christians around the world ushered in a second Christmas under the pall of the COVID-19 pandemic on Friday, as the surging Omicron virus variant disrupted travel plans worldwide, prompting churches to close their doors and tamp down holiday spirits. In the Vatican City, Pope Francis celebrated Christmas Eve Mass before an estimated 2,000 people in St. Peter's Basilica on Friday, going ahead with the service despite a resurgence in COVID-19 cases that has prompted a new vaccine mandate for Vatican employees. Attendance on Friday was limited to about 2,000 people, far more than the 200 allowed in 2020 when Italy was in full Christmas lockdown. Over in Bethlehem's Manger Square, visitors in Santa hats and scouts beating drums marked Christmas Eve on Friday, but fewer people attended as coronavirus fears overshadowed celebrations for a second year. The city where Christians believe Jesus was born is usually a focal point of the holiday, with thousands packing the streets and filling the hotels. In India, congregants in the Indian city Hyderabad celebrated Christmas by attending an outdoor midnight mass on Saturday. They packed in for the service, which was held as new cases of the Omicron variant continues to rise across the country. Meanwhile, churches across the Philippines held on Saturday Christmas Day masses for those affected by Typhoon Rai. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines set Christmas Day as one of 2 weekend national days of prayer to be offered for those affected by Typhoon Rai, which left more than 300 dead and caused massive damage to areas in the central and southern Philippines. Over in South Korea, hundreds of worshippers gathered at a church in Seoul to attend a Christmas service on Saturday despite the coronavirus pandemic. Under government rules, religious facilities are only allowed to hold 70% seating capacity. All worshippers must also be fully vaccinated under the restrictions. Meanwhile, airlines have cancelled more than 4,500 flights during the Christmas weekend as the Omicron variant of COVID-19 forces itinerary changes and holiday travel plans worldwide. According to FlightAware, there were at least 2,000 cancellations on Saturday morning, with about 700 of those coming from the US. Earlier on Friday, more than 2,400 cancellations and 11,000 delayed flights were reported by the flight tracking website, with another 600 cancelled flights were already announced for Sunday. The cancellations caused a major disruption to the return to Christmas travel this year, causing further anxiety and uncertainty after the 2020 holiday season was severely affected by the pandemic. Action from the Qatar Stars League. Stay tuned. sports football, the Qatar Stars League, Qatar SC climbed to 6th in the league standings after beating Al Rayyan 1-0. Yassin Brahimi had the chance to give Al Rayyan the lead after 1 minute, but his free kick was however saved by Qatar SC goalkeeper Jassim Al-Hil. The only goal of the game was then scored by Sebastian Soria in the 14th minute when headed in a cross into the bottom corner. The visitors then pushed on for the equalising goal, but the scoreline remained till the full-time whistle. With the win, Qatar moved to 6th, while Al Rayyan are 9th in the 12-team table on 9 points. The Duchess of Cambridge played the piano for the first time in public during a special carol service in London's Westminster Abbey, broadcast on Christmas Eve. Kate performed with British pop star Tom Walker, who sang a rendition of his emotional single, For Those Who Can't Be Here. The televised event also included performances by a choir and well-known artists, including Ellie Goulding and Leona Lewis. Take a look. I'm Ahmed Hamdan. Thanks for watching and stay safe.